Hello and welcome. Today we're diving into the sacred origin story of one of the most profound philosophers in history, the great Adi Shankara. Now his story doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It comes at a time in India of intense spiritual searching, a time filled with all sorts of different and often conflicting philosophies. So this isn't just a biography. Oh no. It's a story that's woven from a divine promise, incredible cosmic signs, and the birth of a child who was truly destined to change everything. But first, let me ask you something to think about. If a truly divine soul were to be born today, right now, what kind of signs do you think would announce their arrival? Just hold that thought in your mind, because we're about to journey back in time to a small, quiet village in ancient India. So, a story like this, it doesn't begin with some huge, dramatic battle. It starts with something much quieter, but way more powerful, a simple prayer. It begins with a devout couple whose faith was so strong, so pure, that it literally moved the heavens and set a divine plan into motion. Okay, so picture this, the serene little village of Kaladi. It's here that we meet Sivaguru and his wife Aryanbal. Now these were good people, deeply religious, very learned, but their hearts carried this one deep sadness. They had no children. Their days were filled with prayers and rituals, all focused on this one single, powerful wish. And you know what? That incredible, unwavering devotion, it got noticed. One night, Lord Shiva himself, so pleased with their faith, appeared to them in a dream. And he gave them this unbelievable choice. He said, you can have 100 ordinary sons, who will live long but unremarkable lives, or you can have one brilliant, all-knowing son, whose life will be short, but whose legacy will benefit the entire world. They chose the one brilliant son. And with that, Shiva made this incredible promise. And just like that, it was done. A divine light, a sacred energy called a Jyotis, is said to have mystically entered Aryanbal's womb. That was the moment of incarnation. You can just imagine how they felt, filled with this incredible sense of awe and gratitude. They returned home to Kaladi to await the birth of their promised child. All right, now the fulfillment of this promise, it was not a quiet event. When this child finally arrived, it was as if the entire cosmos just stopped and took a deep breath to acknowledge that the great soul had come into the world. The timing of his birth was just perfect. It was a flawless celestial alignment. It happened in the month of Vaikasi, on the 5th day of the waxing moon, and, this is the key part, under the Tiruvadirai star. Why is that important? Because that star is deeply connected to Lord Shiva himself. This was absolutely no ordinary birth. So, what do you name a child like this? They named him Sankara. And his name was basically his mission statement. In Sanskrit, Sam means bliss or goodness, and Karoti means to give. So Sankara literally means the giver of bliss, a perfect name for the purpose he was born to fulfill. And it wasn't just the stars. It's like the whole world reacted to his arrival. Get this. At the exact moment he was born, it said that sacred fires in temples and rituals suddenly flared up, burning brighter than ever before. Books with, questionable spiritual ideas literally just slipped out of the hands of people reading them, and wise sages all over the land just felt it. They felt a shift in the air and knew a great being had just been born. But the signs got even more personal, even more undeniable. People were just stunned when they looked at the tiny infant's hands and feet, because there, in the lines on his palms and soles, were shapes that looked exactly like the symbols of Lord Shiva, the trident, the axe, the deer, and the skull. I mean, come on, this was undeniable proof of who he was. Okay, so the divine signs were there from birth, but as the child grew, his divine nature really started to shine through an absolutely staggering, almost unbelievable intellect. Think about what most kids are doing at 3 years old. Learning colors, maybe a few words. Well, at just 3 years old, Shankara began his formal education, his Aksharabhyasam. He was learning to read and write. And he wasn't just learning, he was absorbing knowledge like a super-powered sponge. His learning process was just breathtaking. It was like 1 minute he's learning the alphabet, and the next, bam, he's reading the vast, complex scriptures all by himself. And we're not just talking about reading the words. He mastered them. He could memorize entire books after hearing them just once. And most importantly, he understood their deepest philosophical meanings like it was the most obvious thing in the world. But even for a divine child, life isn't without its sorrows. In the midst of all this incredible learning, tragedy struck. When Shankara was only 4 years old, his father, Sivaguru, passed away. This left the young prodigy and his mother to face the world together, and this early loss would profoundly shape his spiritual path. So you've got this child who is a certified genius, right? Well, this next part of his life is all about balancing that incredible mind with an equally powerful sense of humility. It all kicks off when he's 5, right after his sacred thread ceremony, when his formal spiritual training really begins. He entered what's known as a gurukula. You can think of it as an ancient kind of boarding school where you live with your spiritual teacher, your guru. But it's so much more than that. Yeah, you're learning the Vedas and scriptures, but you're also performing daily chores, serving your teacher. The whole system is designed to build discipline, respect, and above all, to keep you humble. An essential part of this life, a really core duty, was the daily practice of seeking bhiksha, or alms. Going from door to door asking for food wasn't about just getting a free lunch. It was a powerful spiritual exercise. The entire point was to dissolve the ego, to make you humble enough to actually receive true knowledge. So one day, this daily ritual leads to an encounter that has become one of the most famous stories of his childhood. The young Shankara, this boy with a divine mind, finds himself standing before the tiny, humble hut of a woman living in absolute poverty. And, following tradition, he respectfully asks for alms. The woman was just heartbroken. She searched her home, but she had nothing to give him. Absolutely nothing, except for one single dried gooseberry that she had saved for herself. With tears in her eyes, she gave the young Shankara the only piece of food she owned in the entire world. And this simple, selfless act of giving, it moved Shankara to his very soul. That experience, that moment where immense spiritual potential met pure, selfless generosity, it was a lesson more powerful than any scripture. And it really leaves us with a thought to ponder, doesn't it? What incredible seeds of greatness are sown, not in power or in intellect, but in the simple, fertile soil of humility. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer on the divine beginnings of Adi Shankara. If this story of faith, destiny, and profound humility inspired you, please do me a favor. Hit that like button, share it with someone you think would appreciate it, and of course, subscribe for more deep dives into timeless wisdom. We'll see you next time.